So I'll be talking about creating local solutions to global problems. I'll talk about how we started hydrate research in Nigeria. And my name is Odutola. Please move to the next slide. So, yeah, here are some of my affiliations. Move to the next slide, please. Okay, this is the presentation outline. I'll talk to you about what hydrate is, what we did to make this innovation happen, and how we identified the problem, got the solution to the problem, and how what we are doing with our solution right now. Hydrates for us in the oil and gas industry is a major problem because it's solid, and most times we want to move fluids, we want to move liquid, and then hydrate starts forming in the pipe, and if it's not managed, it blocks the pipe. So if you want to go into the physics of hydrate, this is what happens when there's high pressure and low temperature in the presence of water and gas. You have hydrate forming, and hydrate is like an ice-like substance. So years back, I had started my doctorate degree in the University of Port Harcourt, and some industries provided problems for us to solve. I picked the problem on hydrates, and I started working on it. Next slide, please. But there was no equipment to do this, you know. And here are some of the problems that hydrate causes. So you have reduction in the internal pipeline, you have plug pipelines, that production downtime when your plug is, and of course reduced revenue. The picture over there, when your hydrate is not properly managed, when you're trying to dissociate, it can act as a projectile and burst the pipe, and a lot of problems in your field. So it's not something you want to deal with at all. Please move to the next slide. Okay, so here are some of the management techniques that you can use. You can use chemical methods, removal of hydrate formers, like trying to make sure that the hydrate formers are not touching each other. Pressure control, where you try to reduce the pressure in your system. And then you can also pig, that's the mechanical method. And because hydrates are formed at low temperature, you want to maintain your oil temperature as high, above the hydrate formation temperature. So, but I knew all these solutions, but how to test them during the PhD was the problem. Please, next slide. Now, at that point in time, there was little or no data about what people had done on hydrates in Nigeria, and then we had to think of how we would solve these hydrate problems in subsea environments. Now, the major problem was that there was no hydrate equipment, and at that point in time, we were speaking to a particular company who was supposed to and they said, why are you disturbing us? This equipment was built by a PhD student. You know, that if this is the best you can do, if you don't want it, leave it. At that point, when you build this equipment, if a PhD student can build it abroad, you can build it here. We had to start thinking, how do I build this? How do I build this? I had to start looking at models that exist around the world. And with that, I was able to come up with this conceptual design, and the had to start fabricating, and we started putting pipes in pipes. So what you see here is a stainless steel pipe that is covered by a PVC pipe, and the PVC pipe contains cold water. What we're trying to simulate is an offshore environment where the pipeline is always on the waterbed, covered with a lot of water. Okay, so initially we had that cooler there, and we're putting ice in it, but we saw that we were never attaining hydrate formation temperature. So we had to start changing a lot of things. At this point, we were putting a control panel, putting the gauges to monitor pressure and temperature. Next slide. So we had to change to a refrigerating unit to ensure that the temperature was cold enough to ensure that hydrate forms. Next slide, please. Okay, and then we had to move it from there to Uniport, and did a lot of installation again, and a lot of changes, because we started noticing a couple of things that we had to change, modify. We modified a lot of things. Next slide. And this is what it currently looks like. So we still had to insulate again. And I started getting a lot of visitors. I was visited by NSE, Total funded part of this. So they came around, you know, so I got feedback from them. Okay, you can change a couple of things, and we kept changing things. And eventually we got the hydrate loop. So I'm going to show the animation. It's the link there, but I don't know if there's internet connected to the system. So the next slide shows the animation. Next slide, please. You don't have to click the link. Next slide. You have to play the video, please. Okay. There's a narration, but if there's no volume, I think we'll just read what it's showing.
And a short flow. With the introduction of the
So this animation was done by one of my students in 2022 after BBC visited and did a documentary on this. They requested for an animation, so a student of mine put this together.
16 stainless steel pipe enclosed in an insulated 4-inch polyvinyl chloride (PVC) pipe. The hydrate loop mimics offshore production in the subsea environment. The steel pipe enclosed in the PVC pipe containing cold water represents the flow line on the seabed, surrounded by cold water. The skid-mounted loop was fitted with pumps, temperature gauges, pressure gauges, differential pressure transmitters, a gas mixing vessel, an inhibitor mixing vessel, and a natural gas cylinder. The experiment starts by pumping 435 milliliters water into the steel pipe to raise the loop pressure to about 25 psi using pump 3. The cooling water generated from the refrigerator is then pumped around the annulus of the steel pipe and the PVC pipe using pump 2 to progressively reduce the loop temperature to hydrate formation temperature. Natural gas is injected into the loop to achieve a pressure of 150 psi as a single batch. The screw pump is turned on to cause agitation in the flow line. The temperature and pressure around the loop are recorded every minute during the 2 hours experiment. Hydrate formation is indicated by 1. Reduction in flow viewed from the transparent flow meter. 2. Rapid rise in temperature caused by the exothermic reaction of hydrate formation. 3. Rapid decrease in the final loop pressure caused by the natural gas being used up to form hydrates. 4. An increase in the differential pressure between the inlet and outlet of the refrigerating unit due to hydrate crystals forming around the inner pipe walls. When testing hydrate inhibitors, the inhibitor is mixed with water and pumped into the loop to make up the 435 milliliters. The gas is injected to increase the loop pressure to 150 psi, and the cooling water is circulated around the loop. Inhibitor effectiveness is indicated by 1. No reduction in flow viewed from the glass flow meter. 2. No spontaneous rise in loop temperature due to the absence of the hydrate formation exothermic reaction. 3. No significant drop in the final loop pressure because the inhibitor prevented the hydrate formation reaction between the gas and water. 4. No significant change in the differential pressure between the inlet and outlet of the refrigerating because the inhibitor effectively prevented hydrate formation in the pipe walls. The mini hydrate loop can adequately predict hydrate formation in gas pipelines and can be used in screening and selecting kinetic hydrate inhibitors.
Thank you. So what eventually hydrates equipment? So one of the things I should also say here is that this research has also opened up a lot of things for us in the University of Port Harcourt. I remember there was a particular seminar that was being done in the department, and Prof he said that we don't design good equipment, and that's why our papers will never be taken by Elsevier. After he said that, I walked up to him, I told him my paper was taken by Elsevier. He was like, really? I said, yes. And then it was still this equipment. So it has grown to the point where people are talking about it globally. I open my LinkedIn and I see someone saying, I want to come and see your equipment. Someone is sending a message, do you accept students from Malaysia? Who wants to come to Nigeria? I just laugh about it. But maybe it's me not seeing it as something as big as it is, but when I get those kind of, there was even early this year, someone reached me. He said he wants to have a discussion that he was starting a program at Odutola. He was looking at collaborating with us and all of that. So, well, we didn't know this could happen, but it started happening. You know, it was just a challenge. Build this, someone built it abroad. You have the same kind of brain they have. Do it. it wasn't that easy, but it has been done. And what this has also done is that it has made a lot of people believe that we can actually build things here in Nigeria. And when you come around university now, you see them building things, and we've not stopped here. Recently, we're also looking at collaborating with companies and building new equipment. This is also being used as a training facility in the University of Port Harcourt. We've had international students coming around. We've had students doing their research PhDs, MSc, PhDs, undergraduates. We also had the BBC visiting 2 years ago, 2022. In fact, when I got the message on LinkedIn, I thought it was a scammer. I said, BBC, how? And when he came, he said, Toy, I read about you, I read about your work. I don't just visit people randomly. And then we're looking at new designs now, and we are also, next slide please, we are also fabricating new things. This one is a smaller tabletop equipment. It's for wax deposition. This was what I used with my undergraduate students last year teaching, because we are not just describing wax, hydrate, and they are imagining, oh, how does it look like? Now they can go to the lab, simulate these things, and see it working. It's possible for us to look inwards and create our own solutions, indigenous solutions that can help solve global problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Doyle,